Hello, friends, and welcome. We are live on all of our pages, all of our social media pages, and this is about to be our first episode of Wake Up with Giants Radio. We are a couple minutes out from starting, and everyone is going to say hi. I am joined here by Nicole, and her name on the radio is Cola the RPG. By Nick, and his name is the Gentle Giant. By Ryan, who is Ryan the Lion on the radio, and by Rachel Smart, who is the Smart Doctor on our radio show. We're a couple minutes out. Does everyone want to say hi?
Would love to. Hi, everybody.
Hello,
I'll go
everybody.
first. We're going to either really mess this up or it's going to be awesome.
It's going to be epic. That's all.
It will be. It doesn't matter if we mess it up. It'll still be epic.
Yeah. You might learn some new things today, everybody, the world.
Oh, dear Ryan. I love these people so much. I love them so much. I have so much love in my heart.
Just tell herself that.
Okay, I am going to get our recording going on our radio here. And in just about another half a minute, we're going to go live on our first Wake Up with Giants radio show. And today, our topic is finding your giant why. So if you are on StreamYard or any of our social media channels, please do go to accessradio.ca/country-music. Join in the chat there. We've all got our chat up. I don't know how easily I'll be able to concentrate on all of these things I've got going on, but please do get into the chat. Everybody is in there, and we would be happy to answer all of your questions and read all of your comments in the chat there. All right, we are going live. Hello, good morning, folks, or good afternoon, folks, and welcome to the very first episode of the Wake Up with Giant show. I have all of my friends here. I have the Nick the Gentle Giant, Nicole, Cola the RPG, Ryan the Lion, and Rachel the Smart Doctor here with me today. And today, our topic is finding your giant why. And I'm going to invite all of my friends in here to come in and talk about the league. Because this is our first episode, we're going to talk about the league and what the League of Giants is. Come on in, my friends.
We're not supposed to be shy.
Yeah, come on in, Rachel.
Smart Doctor, here I am. I am so grateful that you're all joining us today. And this really, the League of Giants is really where we just turn the obstacles into the greatest opportunity for you and to find your own voice and feel those giant shoes that maybe you've been holding back on, and realizing that sometimes we step into messy, and that's the best part, because we have to kind of clunk our way and do things messy so we can figure out what's working, what's not, and then ask for help. So we're part of community. Welcome, joining all those that are joining in.
Perfect. I'll take a stab. This is Nick Smith, the Gentle Giant. And so I want to talk about the League of Giants as well from my perspective. So this is based off of the book, The Giants and the Smalls, The Adventure of Remy and Rit. And that's foundational for everything that we do of creating giants in the world. And what's amazing about this is when we started this vision, we had no idea we would have a radio show. And now we're reaching people on a global scale with the message of how they can reach their highest potential. And so the whole purpose of the League of Giants is to help people step into that in every possible way. There's so many ways to be a giant. So I'm so grateful to be here.
Nicole?
Yeah, Nicole Castillo, Cola, the RPG. And League of Giants is really in line with my mission, my vision, my values. When Nick and Ryan introduced me to the book, I was super excited because they support people with living into their highest potential and their giant potential. And I call that their highest version of themselves. So League of Giants to me is a group of diverse people from all different backgrounds that are coming together to impact our entire planet. We have this amazing tribe right now called a Tribe of Giants. If you're not part of it, we would love to have you there. It is just a community on Facebook group where we go to regenerate, go to get some good, positive love, light, and energy in our lives right now. I think that with everything going on in the world, we all kind of need that safe space to go to and just feel the positive. Somebody has called it like the tsunami of positivity, just like a hurricane of love and light and empowering people to live their highest potential.
Hey, that's awesome. Look, I was just sitting at home enjoying like a nice quiet Sunday, and I got an invite to be on some show, and so here I am. This is Ryan the Lion. I just followed the links, and boom, I'm in a live radio show on StreamYard. It was the craziest thing ever. No, look, I've been hanging around some of these guys for a while. Some of them I've met over the last several months. And there isn't a greater bunch of people on the planet. What a giant means is being the best version of yourself. It's everything that these guys just talked about. And sometimes there's days or moments where you might not feel giant. But the cool thing is that you can choose and you can step forward into your giant potential at any point in time. And you've got people, whether you know it or not, that are out there that'll support you, that'll watch over you. And that's part of what, us showing up here on the radio station and on Wake Up with Giants TV and a tribe of giants to support people is all about, is support, encouragement, to help you to be able to see, hey, look, these people are going through the same thing that I'm going through or something similar. Each individual pathway is unique for different giants. I mean, you all have to go through your own journey through life. But there's people out there that can relate and can help and can support and then enable you, not in a bad way, but enable you with tools, positive tools that can help move you forward, because only you can walk your own path. You have to do it. You have to do the work. So I'm so excited to be here, even though I just happened to stumble on some link and here I am on the radio.
Oh, that was wonderful, Ryan. Thank you. Ryan's our comedian. If you haven't figured that out yet,
I'm the good looks too.
Oh, the good looks too. You might be competing with some others here. It's a great looking group of people here.
Thank God we're on radio.
I know, right?
Yeah,
but
I'm good looking
streaming.
off the radio.
Yeah.
We are streaming to our social media channels too. So I made sure I put my lipstick on today. So today we're talking about finding your giant why, and I love how we've come together as a league, and we're all of these people. There's 9 of us in total, and we're all of these people who are doing amazing things in our own lives and in our separate lives and in our separate businesses, and we've come together as this league and to support this mission, and the mission really is finding your giant. And that's why we chose the topic today, finding your giant why. And so, I want to go in, friends, and talk about how this topic supports the mission of the league and where we're going to kind of head with this episode. In your own words, where we're going to head with this episode.
Yeah, one of the things that I see in the why is it's that purpose, that drive. So a purpose is an aim or a goal. And so supporting the giants and what we're trying to create globally, our goal is to impact 100 million lives globally. And so that's a lot of people. And so having a purpose like that helps us decide which things we should act on and which ones we shouldn't. So it helps us to clarify our decisions as we move forward. Some people might have their own why. It might be a little different from that. For me, it just serves that purpose of touching as many lives as we can globally.
Thanks, Nick. Anyone else want to jump in there?
Hey, real quick, I'm watching some of the comments too, and obviously the radio show can't see the all the comments on our social media and stuff like that. But you're getting a lot of compliments on your lipstick and on me on my good looks too. So just want to let you know that.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
Well, I got 2 layers of lipstick on. Well, I think as we're speaking, having fun with this, a lot of time, world is filled with distractions, distortions, all this stuff that's out there. We have to be able to realize we can get caught in a rabbit trail, a whirling dervish of information. We have to realize the purpose of our message today is to help you be inspired, to be able to look at your life by navigating this, listening to our conversation, that you can be inspired. You make, like Ryan shared, to make a decision that you want things to change. That's the first step. And determining your why is that you deserve that, and that you have to clarify those so you don't run in circles. And we want to help you take shortcuts, because that's where we ask for help, and then be part of a community that can help you, give you ideas. We're here to support you, and that you have to be able to first decide that you want to change, and then you work down little layers, and it's just inch by inch. It's ascension, yard by yard. It's hard. So we're here to be able to make it easier, but you have to have a plan and a roadmap, or we just go in circles and sabotage ourselves.
Absolutely. And I think that it's really important to point out that our topic today is finding your giant why, not just your why. And when we talk about the League of Giants, and when we talk about the book, The Giants and the Smalls, and when we talk about what our mission is, to empower 100 million people, it's important to have that word there, your giant why, because we're not asking you to think small. We're asking you to think big. And that's really what we want to talk to you about today in this episode. And we want to empower you and really inspire you to think big in your life, and think about what that giant why is. Even if it's unreachable to you, or if it seems unreachable to you, we really want you to think big. The sky is the limit. And we'll move in future episodes into how you get there. But today, the how doesn't matter. I don't want you to think about how you're going to get to that why. I just want you to think about what that why is and how giant it can be.
Yeah. And I just like to say that when people come to me for coaching and they'll say, like, this is what I want, and I ask them why, you have to go deep and dig deep. They'll come to me and say, I want to look sexy and confident in a bikini. And I'll say, why? Well, because I want to look good in a bikini. Let's go a little bit deeper. What is it? Why is it important to you to look good and feel sexy and confident in a bikini? And we keep asking that question. Why do you want this? Why do you want this? Until we get to the root of the real reason.
I ask myself that a lot too, Nicole.
Same question. Actually,
why? Yeah, that's the same exact question.
It's because, I want to look sexy for my husband. Well, why do you want to look sexy for your husband? Well, because we just don't have that spark and that connection anymore. And I just feel like it might spice up my marriage, right? So what the person really wants has nothing to do with the bikini. It has to do with connection to their husband, right? Why you want something. It's usually a lot deeper, and it's one of those things that moves you 2 tiers to think about. I know that for me, there's been times if my why is not big enough, I'm not going to follow through on what it is that I'm creating for myself. It's like that why has to be there in those moments when I don't want to push, when I'm on the squat rack and I don't want to push another rep up, right? I've got to be able to get into that why and get moved emotionally to like almost tears to be able to push through that other rep, right? But that's because my why isn't about looking cute in a bikini. It's about connection with my husband, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Can I speak to that a little bit?
Yes, please do.
All right. So the why, looking at it, if we define it, the why looks at the cause. If we look in the past, it looks at the cause of something. Why did something happen? If you look at the future, it's your reason to take action. And so the stronger that reason is, the more likely you are to show up and actually do something about it. So if you have a purpose that's strong enough, like you say, Nicole, it'll drive you to keep going every day. You'll wake up, you'll keep push and play. Otherwise you might falter a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, I think too, just pop in here, and coaching a lady that she kind of felt like she lost her purpose. She was about 78 years old and she felt like she had lived her life, but stepping into a new phase and think, well, do I even have any purpose, even living a giant life at the end of the life? And so I began coaching her. In 7 months of coaching her, we developed that we rewriting stories. We have second chances. We have a lot of energy to the last breath. And so she first wanted to just empower people. And that was kind of a good place to start. But I go, why? What does that look like? And we started realizing where the wounds come from. A lot of times our purpose comes from the wounds in our life. And she had been 30 years sober. And she had been a widow once and raised a lot of struggling, a lot of things that she had happened to her. And then just realizing that in the process, it was a lot of doubt because she thought, can I really do something big? But with the coaching and with community, with the learning, she stepped into it, and she's just launching her first book this month, and to being able to empower people to do things, but having it continue on even at 78 years of age. So does it mean that you're starting young as a teenager or college or, into marriage or, refining and redefining things in your life, but it never stops until the last breath. And oftentimes when you're sitting on or if you imagine your deathbed, that can help you live the life of a giant today, because you have to see how do you want to show up at the end of your life, and it makes you reflect.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Rachel. As I was sitting here thinking listening to Rachel talk, I started to think, I like to try and go into the minds of our listeners and really put myself in the place of our listeners. And I do that often when I'm running that chat in the evening. I like to go and find myself in your place, because we've all been in your shoes where you are right now, our listeners, all of us in the league. We've all been in the shoes of our listeners before. And that's why we're able to come on and talk about these topics and really dive deep into them. And I was sitting here thinking, well, what if some of our listeners are thinking, why is this important to me? Why do I have to have a why? And I think that it's really important to address that, because I know that all of us here in the league, at one point or another, through all of our adversities and through all of our growth, have been in that place where we didn't have a why and we didn't have the ambition to really work towards that why. We were in a state of surviving, really a state of survival and a state of being and not really moving towards anything. And I think it's really important to point out that in recognizing that and in finding the capacity within ourselves to move out of that state of survival, we had to define our giant why and work towards that with little steps every day.
I'll say something to that too. One of my favorite authors is Viktor Frankl, and he talks about man's search for meaning. And in the concentration camps, there were people that were dying off because they didn't have a purpose of any kind, no reason for living. And so when you create that why, you create a reason for living. And he said even something as simple as giving bread to another person became a purpose for people. And so for me, my why, taking this book and writing it and getting it out to the world and creating these programs, is that it drives me to do something that's now no longer about me. When I started, it was about me getting out of my own space. But now there's this whole community globally that we get to serve. And every morning I wake up and I'm thinking, wow, what else can I do today to serve this community? How can I support? How can we keep this in line with the mission that we have? And so I don't know that the purpose necessarily matters or the size of it. It's that it matters, if that makes sense. Anybody ever have thoughts around that?
Yeah, Nick has really, really big shoes too, and they're wide. So it's hard to imagine like exactly in Nick's shoes, because I've like the little kid with the big giant coat like of his dad's or something like that. That's how I would feel, like super small inside his shoes. But
hard to buy Nick socks.
Yeah. He's got wide feet. So, but anyway, so for me, like some of us are currently in that exact same spot that you're in, or and going through it. Lamar, Coach L, one of our giants, he pointed out too, like you learn tips and tricks and hacks and equip your tool belt so that you can move through those as you're going along, the roadblocks and the things that are holding you back. And I've found for me personally that if I throw out an aim or a goal, because if I don't, any direction will do. You come home and you just do whatever, and you're not getting anywhere closer. And sometimes you're getting farther away from where truly inside where you want to be. So first you need to define, okay, where do I want to be? What does it look like? What does it feel like? What does it feel like to already have that in my space? And then start going to work. Figure out, inch by inch, right? Rachel just mentioned this just a little bit ago. Inch by inch, it's a cinch. Yard by yard, it's hard. Sometimes there's an overwhelm when you look at, a big goal and it's giant. It's your Mount Everest. And you're like, man, how am I going to tackle that thing? Well, a little bit at a time. Break it down into smaller steps and you can get to where you want to be.
I think of Alice in Wonderland, Ryan, when you say that. When Alice asks the cat, which path should I take? And he says, where do you want to go? And she says, I don't know. And he says, well, then a path will do.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that direction is necessary. Also, the mountain that you're climbing. One of our guests on our show, the TV show, Wake Up with Giants TV, said that the mountain that you're carrying was meant to be climbed. And so just setting that down and starting to climb it inch by inch, little by little, allows you to climb that. And instead of carrying it around, this weight of the world.
Yeah, and talking to somebody else too that's already maybe climbed that same mountain, because they might have a different perspective. Like coaches on the sideline talked about this the other day in a sales training that I was in, is that, look, you're out there selling and you're out on the field, the football field, and the quarterback, you might be the quarterback in the game. But if you're running the same routes and throwing the ball to the same people and it's not working, well, coach is there to watch that and see it from a different perspective, and then be able to say, hey, look, we need to change this play up. The teams that lose don't do that. So go get a coach, go find somebody that has a different perspective as you. Now, they can't be in there. They're not the quarterback. They might not even be able to throw the football very far, but they can have a better perspective or an angle than you do.
Yeah, I love that, Ryan. Thank you. And Lamar is here as well. He's in our comments, and he said, aiming at nothing, you will always hit your target. I'm going to say that again, friends, because I really want you to feel into that one. Aiming at nothing, you will always hit your target. But think about that, friends. If you're aiming at nothing and you're hitting something, how do you know the something you're hitting is the something that you actually want in your life? So let's think about that one. That was very profound from Coach L. And, something piqued me when you were talking there, Ryan, as well. And it's really about, being in that place and needing help. And I can tell you that when I didn't have a why and when I was in that low place, I needed support. And support wasn't necessary. We have coaches and mentors now, but support really didn't always mean that. Sometimes support just meant a friend to talk to, or my mom was there with me when I was in that low place, and my mom was my advocate. And sometimes that just means somebody in your life that's willing to advocate for you and kind of bring you along and celebrate with you every day that you get up out of bed, and help you to be grateful for the fact that you got up out of bed, or maybe you brushed your teeth that day, or whatever it is, while you're moving out of that space and into your why.
But I think too, I love what you said, Lady Luck, Melissa, is that sometime, and I work with the wellness, a lot of coaching with wellness and mindset, is that we think sometime that we reach a goal or have a goal and then we can get there and then we're done. But it really is just a landing place to see a bigger why, and as we change and as we grow and as we experience, our whys deepen or can shift into something else. But I think one of the hardest things that I see that people struggle is they think, well, if I get here, I'm done. Or when I get here, I'm going to feel amazing. And it's really about just getting to a place of always knowing that you're always growing. You're always going to be growing to that giant. And then once you get to that mountain of the giant thing you thought you could see, you're going to see a vista of other things. And our life happiness is really when you're growing and when you're giving. And so it kind of combines our message with the giants. And with what Nick said is that we want to reach things, but we want to be able to serve out, because that's where joy is really found. It's not coming up empty handed, that you reach a goal, whether it's a health goal or a relationship goal, but it's always a moving target. And we can't get caught up that when we get there, we're done. We just are beginning to see anew.
Yeah, we talked to Pride Smith today on Wake Up with Giants TV, and Pride talked about that same thing. I asked him. He's an artist. He's the founder of a awesome product called the Testacuzzi. I don't know if I could say that on the radio, but I'm doing it anyway. Testacuzzi.com. There you go, Pride Smith. There's your plug. Love you, brother. But look, he wasn't even going to do that. He was working on some other things completely. And then he broke through, and this came out of kind of left field as kind of a joke, and then he hit, he's climbed his Mount Everest. He's hit a spot, and I asked him that same thing. What do you do from here? You just done? And of course, Pride Smith, being the mountain of a man that he is, no, he's shifted and set new goals, new heights to go and accomplish and create. And that's what it's all about. And hey, maybe it's just starting with a hill. Maybe it's not an Everest. Maybe it's not something giant and crazy big. Maybe it's something just a win of some sort, just some sort of a win. And then you can shift your perspective and say, "Okay, I did that," and celebrate it. Be excited about it. Anchor that in. Share it with your friends, the people that are going to support you. Those are your true friends. And then do it again. Find something else to stretch and to grow. And eventually you're going to be doing bigger and bigger things. And you look back and you go, man, that wasn't that hard. When before, looking back at it, it might have been like way out of your mind. You might not ever have thought you could do something like that. But now your capacity has increased. And so I love that, Rachel, what you touched on there.
Yeah, I do too. That really speaks to me too. And I love how you expanded on that, Ryan. Because I think back to when I was on my journey, at the beginning of my journey, and I literally remember, I'll say this on the radio because I've said it on Wake Up with Giants TV. I remember being in adult diapers every day, right? We've talked about that before, Nick and Ryan. And I thought that was the most horrible place I could ever be in. And I remember my little goals at that time being literally just get up out of bed, make it through the day, be able to go outside and, not soil myself, have the adult diapers on and be brave enough to have them on and not have an accident, be able to get to the dinner table and sit there with my family and eat, maybe brush my teeth that day. They were small whys. They were small goals for me at that time. And what brought me along was my kids and my family, because
Melissa, do you mind speaking to that a little bit? Like, and I know hey, you're live on the radio, so it's okay. If you say no, it's okay, but I'm going to put you on the spot just a little bit, because there's people that can benefit from your story. And if you haven't heard Melissa's story, she covers it in detail in the Wake Up with Giants TV. We have that on Facebook. You can go in and watch her whole story and expound on that. But can you touch back on your history just a little bit, so it gives our listeners some perspective on that, and then go forward from there? Because that's like some people are at home going, wait, what? And then go back there for us. Do you mind?
Yeah, no, for sure. I've talked about this on Matt Chat too. I've talked about my story. So I suffered postpartum depression and severe anxiety, along with severe gastrointestinal issues. Back in 2011, it's been a minute since that happened. And it was about a 2.5-year recovery. And I was really at the point where I could not be alone with my daughter in a room without having a panic attack. If she cried, I had a panic attack and I would have to leave the room. My mom spent the whole first year of my daughter's life with us at our house. Every single day she came over. And she basically helped to raise my daughter. I had a 2.5-year-old son at the time as well. And while my ex-husband now went to work, my mom was there raising my kids, and
What an amazing mom too, by the way.
Oh, my mom is a giant. We should get my mom on the Wake Up with Giants show and be interviewed on the TV show. I've been thinking about that for a while, because she really, I mean, that's where I learned how to be a giant, was from my mom, because she's been a giant for so many people in our lives. Man, that's making me weepy a little bit. I'm trying to hold it together here.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Let her go. Let it rip.
That was your goal, wasn't it? To get me to cry on the radio, Ryan?
A little bit.
So something more to add to that is that sometimes that survival mode is all you can do. And when you're in that space, having a why re-engages you. So as soon as you can step out of that, you have something to re-engage with. And so one thing I learned from anxiety is that you don't want to avoid it. You don't want to try and get rid of it. You want to allow it. And then as soon as you can, you want to re-engage with your creation, whatever that creation is. And so it's okay to go to survival mode. I still use survival mode. There are times where it's very helpful. It helps me get through situations. It serves me. But as soon as I can, I want to get back into re-engaging with my bigger mission, my bigger goal.
Yeah, I love that you said that, Nick, because that brings us into it brings my mind to something else too. It brings me into what happens when you fall off of your path to the why, right? It really and what I want to say to all of our listeners is that it's okay to fall off the path. It's okay to not take a step today, and maybe tomorrow we're going to take a step. And it's okay to forgive yourself for falling off the path and needing to take a step back and step back and maybe into that survival mode for, the day, feel into it, and then move forward the next day. But I think it's really important to know inside of yourself that it's okay, and that you can forgive yourself for not taking that step towards your giant why and your goals that day. Does anyone else have thoughts on that?
I'll pop in here. I think listening to your story, Melissa, is really amazing, because we're about trying to be authentic in our journey. And I remember one of the things I coach my clients with, and I've done this personally, is we get them to put together like a poster, get a poster, big poster, and we take like 30 minutes. We don't think too hard about it. We have little sticky notepads, and you just write down every experience that you can think of from the earliest years to where you are currently. And so they're good and bad. Lots of experiences you go through your life. And then after you assess those, because you want to be able to know where the good and the bad together, and then you pick out the ones that have been struggles, the pain points, and then you put them and on the poster, you're making little titles like a bird's eye view of like your life journey. And then you're kind of putting in early years titles of the chapters of your life, early years, middle age, maybe older years, or wherever you are in your life. And then you're going to put the little stickies in place of where they are, so you can kind of look at your life as a bird's eye view. And then the biggest thing is you want to take the wounds or those struggles, the hardest points, maybe narrow it down to 5. You put them in a different color, and you put a dot on them, and you're writing down as many things you have learned from that struggle. And what I have found that often the struggle is where your why begins to burn, and you realize there's a pattern. And in my life, I had been through a lot with my life, and I really identified that I found my why, the general why, because there's different platforms that speak out. Your why was resiliency, faith, and helping people rise strong, because I had to rise strong, and it made a turn that mirror around, and you start realizing that the greatest joy is to help others do what you've done. And so that's what I have found, whether it's nutrition or spiritual or being successful, and I think satisfied, whatever successful means. Doesn't mean you have to be in business. You could be on the call and you want to be a great mother or whatever, a student, but you want to be able to know there's a place to drive you, but you have to kind of assess, like you said, Melissa, forgive, and then build curiosity around what's happened. And then you go, wow, what have I learned? Not just be oblivious to life happening, because you'll never go deep into figure out what it is that you're born to do and overcome and help others do the same.
Looking at home, I hope you're taking notes. If you're driving and listening to the radio, don't pull over before you take notes. But from Giants, the League of Giants, being involved with the League of Giants, and hearing somebody like Rachel go through that, I just took notes, because that's something that I haven't done. So you can always be learning too, and giants learn from other giants and continue to grow. So thank you, Rachel, for that. That was amazing.
Thank you, everyone. We're going to take a quick break here for an ad, and we'll be back in a couple of minutes. Okay, we've got 2 minutes, guys. Our mics are off. Great job, everyone. I was so nervous at the beginning. Oh, dear God.
See, the cool thing about this is the people that are joining us on our social media get to see the behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah.
I know, right?
Oh, dear God. Here we go.
Yeah. Hi, guys.
Yeah, I think I finally stopped shaking about 4 minutes ago.
Yeah.
I'm like, breathe, Nicole, just breathe.
What's funny is we do these shows and I'm still nervous. Like, it's
Yes.
so
You
amazing.
never get, and it never stop the nervousness, but it's called relaxed intensity.
Yeah.
I just added a little bit of sugar to the system, so I'm ready to go.
And burnout in 3, 2, 1.
I'm just watching this ad here.
Hi, Amy Bingham. Amy Bingham's on. Lamar Norwood, Mancherry, nice to see you. Great to have you guys on the ride with us. We love you so much.
Not sure if this is streaming in the tribe, but I tried to get it over there.
I think it is. I shared it in. I think I shared it in the tribe. If not,
We
it's
gotta
on
go another half a minute, guys. Before we got to put together some bloopers for all of our friends on social media.
Yeah.
What kind of ads are running? Is it like a Preparation H ad or something like that?
No, it goes specific to the region, so everybody's going to hear a different ad.
They all hear Preparation H.
Yeah. When you're struggling down below.
The ring of fire.
Okay, rein it in. We got a couple of seconds left here.
It is live in the tribe, sir.
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
Welcome back, friends. Welcome back. Today, if you're just joining us, we are talking about finding your giant why. And I am joined here with Ryan the Lion, with Nick the Gentle Giant, with Nicole Cola the RPG, and with Rachel the Smart Doctor. This is Lady Luck. And we're going to continue our discussion about finding your giant why. And I want to ask my league members here to talk about, you've just heard my story and we've heard about where I came from. I'm going to ask my league members to talk about how this has affected them in their lives a little bit. What are some applications that, or some journeys that they've been through where they've really had to decide what their why is? Who'd like to tackle that?
I'll go for that one. When I wrote the book, it was back in 2008. The market had crashed. I was working for my brother and driving 1 hour each direction to get to work and seeing these huge homes up on the hill and wondering how is it that they got to live such giant lives while I was living a small one. I was listening to Who Moved My Cheese by Spencer Johnson. And that it was just a great analogy for how to change your behaviors. And I thought I could write something like that. And all of my ideas, we were listening to Pride Smith today, and he said, this one thing, I can do that. And so many times we tell ourselves all the reasons why we can't do something. And that was one of those cases of, I listened to Spencer Johnson's book and I thought I could write something like this. And so I started creating a purpose to teach my kids how to live giant lives. And that's where the story stemmed from. And then I got the opportunity to live this story about 11 years later, going through a divorce and starting over, just feeling at the lowest I've ever felt in my life and not having a purpose at that point, not knowing what to do. I grabbed this book off the shelf, dusted off. It had sat for years, and it gave me a reason to keep going. And so I used that to anchor in. And so on the hardest days, I would just manage the emotions. I would survive, and I would re-engage with this as frequently as I could. And now today we're here on a radio show internationally. We've got a TV show. We've got giants from around the world. We got the book. All these things came from hanging on to that purpose and that why. And so that's my experience around it.
Thanks, Nick, for sharing that. And I'm gonna put Nicole on the spot. I'm going to ask Nicole this question because I know Nicole's journey and what that's looked like and the struggles that she's had and the adversity that she's had to overcome. And I'm going to ask Nicole if she can talk about her journey and her why, but talk talk to us about what struggles she had with her why and going down that journey, and what kind of ups and downs she had along the way.
Okay, well, here it goes. So I had something happen to me that I made mean something about myself when I was 19 years old. The same day this happened, my brother, he was involved in an industrial accident, and he accidentally killed his boss. And my father worked at the same company. They were very close. And so I didn't tell anyone what happened to me because I wanted my family to be there to support my brother and my father through this. And it took me down a path of destruction. And I wasn't making good choices. I got pregnant with my son, who literally saved my life. If I wouldn't have had my baby, that little boy, I don't know where I would be right now without him. He became my why. But I was in an abusive relationship, and I didn't have a mom that stepped in like Melissa did, which is so amazing that you did, right? I'm the oldest, so I've always kind of been, because of my circumstances, I've always kind of been the parent. And I was in an apartment, 2 kids. The person that I was with, he wasn't coming home. We had 1 cell phone. I lived really far away. He had wrecked my car. So I looked to Dr. Wayne Dyer on PBS. I had 5 channels on my TV, right? And he had just beautiful messages about the power of intention and all these beautiful things. And so if you can't afford a coach, or you can't, that's not possible for you right now, YouTube, go find a mentor on YouTube to start, just to get those positive, that positive intention in your life. I just remember sitting there thinking, like, if I ever make it out of this situation, I'm going to do everything I can to reach back and pull other girls that are in the same place I am forward with me. I don't want them to go through what I've been through. And if they're going through it, I want them to know that they can make it out of this darkness. I didn't leave after that. It took a lot before I left, because I didn't love myself enough. I didn't feel valued enough. I wasn't like a big enough why for myself. My kids, I love them more than anything. That still wasn't a big enough why for me. My why was, after a year, I had like decided, this is my intention. I'm going to get out of this relationship, right? I worked a whole year, and my why was, I wanted to be happy. And I made that decision to leave, and I had a job, I had an apartment, everything was like, I had everything lined up. My lease was done on my apartment. I had a job, and I was moving into a new apartment. Well, I lost my job, my kids, and my apartment in one day. And the universe was like, okay, Nicole, are you committed to your why, or are you going to go back? Right?
There's a lot of people that might relate to that, like having a bad day that just keeps snowballing. Like that's a pretty bad day.
It's like you finally like are like, I can do this. I got this, right? And then you go to jump and you're like, everything just falls apart.
It's like the fails on the diving board, when you go to get that epic dive, and you're gonna hit that last bounce to get the air, and then your foot slips off the diving board, boom, 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 you tumble funny into the swimming pool.
Belly flop, right? Like I face planted, and it was just like the universe was like, hey, Nicole, how committed are you to your why? Are you going to go back again? I had gone back for 8 years, but my why was so big that it was like, I'm going to go sleep in my car. I'm not going back to this anymore. I've made this commitment. I was away. I sent my kids to go stay with their grandparents. I didn't tell them what was going on, right? And they just had the most epic summer with their grandma and grandpa. They had no idea. And it took me like a month, maybe 2 months before I was into my own place again. I had a job that I was able to provide for my kids, but it was that why. When I have a picture of my kids sitting on their grandma and grandpa's front porch. And I would just look at that picture, and that was my why. And nothing was going to keep me from following through with my commitment this time. It has to be so big. Like, I just cry thinking about it, right? And so now my commitment is to my purpose, my why is to support other people with stepping into the giant version of themselves, letting them know that it's okay to have 5 channels on your TV, not have, you don't always need a person that's there. You can be that person. Just find some light.
Thank you for sharing that, Nicole. I can see how hard that was, and I know that it's going to help a lot of our listeners to hear that story. And it really it makes me want to highlight something. When we talk about our giant why, I mean, we've talked to adults, we've talked to children during Storytime Yoga about what their why is, and we've heard so many different things, what their giant goals are. We've heard so many different things. And even though we're asking you to think giant today, and we're trying to inspire you to think giant and think out of this world, I think it's important, from what we've heard from Nicole and from Nick today, I think it's important to have perspective around that why as well. My why right now and my giant goals right now are much different than they were in 2011 when I was healing. And that's the difference in my perspective and the difference in my growth, the growth that I've made and the paths that I've taken. And if I had taken a different path, I'd be in a different spot than where I am right now. But it doesn't mean that I wouldn't still have that giant why and that giant goal and that giant purpose. So if some of our listeners out there today are thinking, I'm not in that spot, I'm not in that deep, dark place, or I'm not up in that high spot with this giant goal, like I'm going to influence 100 million people around the world, it's okay. It's okay to be in the place you are and have the giant why that you have, because it's individual to you and it's based on your perspective and it's based on where you are today. And as you create that and as you move forward and take your path, your giant why will change too.
I love that you said that. So Einstein talks about the theory of relativity and that time is relative. Well, success is relative. It's also subjective and relative to the person that's creating it. And so the purpose and the why, like you mentioned, is relative to each person. Each one gets to decide what that next step is. We've had people on the show where their purpose is to walk. We've had guests who are in wheelchairs and their purpose is to move their arm or their leg for the day. There was one she was in a skiing accident and she had to relearn everything. Jamie Mo crazy. And she hit her head so hard, it was like a blanket of snow over all of her learning. She had to relearn it all. And so her purpose, her why became learning, speaking, communicating. And so there's no why that's too small. Any purpose in the Giants journey, in my view, is gigantic because it takes you to another level. And that's what this is all about.
Yeah. And for me, with my Lyme disease, I did have to learn. I didn't mention that, but in my story, I have neurological Lyme disease. And when I was going through all of this, I had lost function in my leg. I was nearly in a wheelchair. And my why was being able to walk to my husband when I got married. I got married after leaving this guy, right? But my why for physical therapy, all that stuff, was to be able just to walk to him at our wedding. That, like, it seems so little, right? But it was so huge to be able to pull me.
I love hearing all these stories, because this is what we're all about, is helping inspire you to relate to your story wherever it may be. And one of the things I was thinking, I love hearing Melissa's story, Nick's and Ryan's and Nicole. I mean, wow, just hearing those inspire. We go back to look at mentors that you may have in your life, or maybe they family members, or for me, it was Helen Keller. When I was young, I'd always read her stories, and she had life happen to her, and she was angry at the beginning. Of course, you felt like you lost. And I think part of the thing about life, we have to have the right expectations, that life isn't going to be a straight road to the top. And if we can understand that we don't feel we're robbed. It's really we think of life, whether it's you're on a cruise ship, you give me a want, where's my stuff, versus a hospital helping people. And for my journey, I always had my expectations were really not right. When I went into my marriage, it was like my husband was going to save me, and he's the one I would just, he was amazing, and it was like the fairy tale life that I was expecting it to always be. And then my husband was diagnosed with terminal cancer and given 6 months to live, right in the middle of our best part of our life, of 4 kids being raised. And then it kind of flattened the reality of what I thought. My life wasn't going to be this perfect, perfect thing. And then I had to learn to look at this by asking good questions in the dark, like, who am I? And I had a turning point, which is part of what the Giants mission is all about, is to wake up when you're in the dark. And we all have stories where we can just decide, well, we're going to drown and stay in the ditch, or we're going to wake up and say, no, I'm going to help rise. I'm going to help others as I help myself rise too. And so you have to kind of reassess where you are with different perspectives. And I had a turning point, which kind of came out of a hard place, but also good, where one of my daughters in the missing her dad, she said, she turned to me in the middle of a counseling session and said, my mother will never fill my father's shoes. And it was like a shock, because I thought, I could go down the ditch and say I'm never going to be able to have a life of purpose. And then I started learning through the help of God, to reframe that, to say, I will never fill his shoes, but I'll come to fill my own, and I will learn through the messy stuff. And so, I had to learn to, just have, knowing that there were some reasons why that I wasn't dead, that I was still alive, that I could have purpose in it. And I was going to learn in a hard way, but I was not going to give up on who I was. And that became my mission, just like Helen Keller, or just like Nicole, and, all these things we go through. You have to look back and say, who am I? Yes, I'm born for rising, and it can be small, it could be large, but as long as we're looking up, finding the answers within, then we can be able to find strength, and we're born for greatness. And it's just a lifelong journey.
Everybody needs that Zoolander moment when they're looking at the puddle and saying, who am I? Right? Where you just wonder, you got to figure that out and figure out what your reason why. I thought for me, like I knew forever that I'm a people person. I'm the type of person that just loves to surround myself with friends and positivity and excitement and joy and all those things, and to help others. That's just my personality. Some people, that might be like the worst thing in the world to them, and that's okay. But so for me, I had watched the movie Schindler's List, and at the end of Schindler's List, there's this scene where they're sitting around, and Mr. Schindler had saved a whole bunch of Jews, right, from being killed, and put him to work in his factory, but he was having to flee because he was a war criminal now. And he's standing around, and all those workers are around him, all those people that he had saved. And he starts looking at himself, and he's got this gold ring on, and he's got this car, and he's got all these things, and he starts breaking down internally that he could have saved more people if he had sold his ring or sold his car. And one of them said, hey, you did all you can do. And I thought that I had to have all these worldly possessions. I thought for me to be able to make a massive impact on people, I needed money. I needed all these things so that I could then turn around and use my millions and billions and trillions to help other people. But there was a shift, and this happened just in the last maybe 6 months, 8 months, where I realized I'm already making an impact. I'm a person that I'm making an impact on right here, right now. And then I'm also, because I'm bettering myself, I'm able to use my talents and the things that I can do, and my story, to then turn around and help others relate, and to pull them up with us and move them forward in their journey. And I need a microphone, maybe. I need a voice. I need a story. And that's about it. As long as all my faculties are in order and I can speak or communicate in some way, I can help somebody else. And that's really, for me, that's my reason why, is to help others so that they can experience the joy and happiness and the excitement of the world, and reach their giant potential.
So I want to add to that, Ryan, because you're hitting on some power in having that why. It opens up all the possibilities. You don't need much. When you have that clear why, I'll give an example here. Last night I was talking to my 9-year-old. She's crying. She's sad. All her thoughts are tied to that sadness. The only thing she can see in her world is sadness. real tears coming down, her pillow is soaked, right? And she says, I can't change it. I said, that's a lie. And she says, no, I can't. And I said, it's not true. It's not true, because that would be true for me, and that's not true. And I can change it. And out of the blue, she shifts and she starts laughing. And all of a sudden, in an instant, her world changed, and she couldn't even remember being sad in an instant. And what a why does, just tying this into a why, is it allows for an instantaneous and spontaneous change in our environment. We start to see the world differently instantly. We think so linearly as humans. We think, well, I got to go step A, step B, step C, and go each of these steps one by one. And it's going to take 10 years. And I don't know if I can ever get there. When you have a why that's strong enough, you can see changes that are miraculous, that are unexplainable, that you can go from crying to laughing in an instant, just like my daughter did, because of that why. And so I think it's so valuable to have that purpose. It gives us a reason to shift our lives instantly, not linearly, if that makes sense.
That does. Thank you, Nick. And I want to go to our chat for a minute. We have a listener who said sometimes he feels like he's just spinning his wheels, and that he hopes someday to reach his why. And sometimes he just feels like it's just out of reach, and he just has to fight to be it, and that why is just out of reach. And what I want to say to that listener, and to all of the rest of our listeners, is that, I mean, when we take those small steps and we continually change our why, and we move towards those things, it's important to recognize that sometimes we will fall. Sometimes we will feel like we're spinning our wheels, and maybe feel like we're taking a step backwards. But it's important to keep getting up and keep moving forward. And it doesn't mean that you don't honor that place, and honor where you are, and honor the place that you're in, that you stepped back to. It's important to honor that, and to take some time with that, even if sometimes that means sitting down and crying for an hour, or watching a sappy movie, and really feeling into that, and allowing yourself to cry it out. And sometimes we call that a pity party, right? Have a little pity party for yourself, and it's okay to have those feelings. We want you to feel those feelings, and allow them to come over you and pass through you. But it's what you do next that's important. It's what you do next. So if you feel like you're having those days where you're spinning your wheels, or you're taking a step back, allow that to happen, but get up and move the next day. Take the next step the next day. And it doesn't matter how big or how small that next step is, but it's important what you do next. And true giants in this world take the next step. They get up and they take the smallest little action the next day.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think sometime too, just to add on to that, is what Nick was saying, is sometimes you have to, get to a place where you laugh, have a day of silence, to be able to start shifting things with gratitude. Gratitude starts realizing what you have, so that you can have more of that. And then you can kind of see, well, what can I learn from striving? And that's a win. So when the one of the comments that was made, what can I do when it feels out of reach, was perspective. You're never gonna get anywhere. You're journeying. But if you could say, what is a lesson learned? If I can learn one thing or be grateful, that's a win. And so those are some things I wanted to add, just realizing we all have felt that way. It is a journey, no matter where you are. And if you ask what you think the most successful people in life, of all the ones that we think, Maxwell, or, some of the big ones, they all can feel at times that they just are struggling, and they doubt themselves, but they take that space to get silent, to go for a walk, to turn off the phone, or even chat with a friend. And like we're doing today, is to sharing helps us to realize we're not alone, and we all have similar thoughts.
Yeah, I love what you added there, Rachel. And I love that you moved us into that space of gratitude, because I think what that also brings us into is a space of celebration, right? When we're gracious and grateful for something, we're celebrating it. We're celebrating that we're grateful for it. And really, when we're moving towards that giant why, and most importantly, when we're feeling like we're spinning our wheels and taking a step back, it's important to celebrate those little places. I mean, we've talked about when I was in that little spot, I celebrated brushing my teeth. I sat at the dinner table and I put my glass up and I said, cheers, I brushed my teeth today. I'm sitting here at the table having dinner and I brushed my teeth today. That was a celebration to really anchor in that I was moving forward. Nick is you can see him. He's you can't, well, you guys are on the radio, but our social media people can see him jumping up and down. And it's true. It doesn't matter how big or how small those little steps are. It's important to celebrate them and have that gratitude for the little steps that we've made and the little milestones that we've reached in that giant journey, so that it helps us to not feel like we're spinning our wheels or stepping back. It helps us to keep in that place of gratitude.
Speaking of milestones and gratitude, we're just about the end of our show, but I'm so grateful that we were able to be here with you guys today. This has been awesome.
Thank you. Wait, Nicole, were you going to say something? I just saw you jumping in there.
No, I was just going to say how grateful I am for you, all of you, and how much you guys have shared here today, and that we're the hard work that you've done to be able to contribute so much to so many. You know, Rachel could have made a different choice when she lost her husband. Nick could have made a different choice when, you know, he lost everything. Melissa could have made a different choice. So I'm just really grateful for the choices that you guys have made to get to this point, to be able to share so much with so many. I'm just in awe of all of you, like always. I mean, yeah. And Ryan, I don't know what I would do without Ryan.
Thank you.
And
Yeah, I feel the same about Ryan.
yeah, like Ryan, he's like the jelly, the peanut butter and jelly that holds us all together.
Thank you.
Ew.
Yeah.
Ryan would have made different choices and not clicked the StreamYard link today to come into our show.
I just stumbled upon it, and here we are. This was a great show. Thank you, guys. Thanks for allowing me to be your peanut butter and jelly. I love you guys.
Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Again, it's been Nick the Gentle Giant. I am Lady Luck. We have Nicole, Cola the RPG. We've got Ryan the Lion, and we've got Rachel the Smart Doctor here today. And next week, I'd love for you to tune in and listen to our show again, where we'll be talking about the power of intentions and manifestation. So something to think about over the next week. Join in on the chat with us next week. On accessradio.ca, the power of intentions and manifestation. And we're going to head out here, my friends. So our outro is just playing. As soon as that's done playing, then I'll end the broadcast, friends.
Nice job, guys.
Thanks, social media people, too, for you get to see this back end stuff, too.
Yeah. Thank you for Amy and Lamar being here supporting.
Mad Cherry.
Yeah. Mad Cherry.
We've got, just a great community. So thank you guys. You guys did awesome. That was a beautiful show. I love the blending and the colorfulness of the different views. Like, it just adds character to the whole thing. So
I'm very proud of myself for not cursing.
I thought you'd have a Guinness for sure. Like,
I was this close and Ryan saved me.
It's okay. I don't care.
I was like, oh, can't say that.
I made a good choice. I have 2 cups of water today. So.
Well, I loved how we were real. We bounced off. We were just, wanting to be able to help everybody to realize they're not alone in the journey, and it's never done. And our mission and our messages with Nick's, the book and everything that we're trying to pull together is going to help so many people, and just being authentic, that we're not pretending and hiding behind a show. It's real. It's real.
We have the best tribe too. They're awesome.
We're officially off the radio air.
Yay.
That makes Melissa sweat a little bit, because I had to watch the cues and I was like, yeah.
Amazing job.
You did a great
Melissa,
job,
Melissa, you're a rock star.
Yeah.
You were the most amazing captain today on our, maiden voyage.
Maiden voyage, yeah.
Yeah.
It was our maiden voyage.
Captain. So well done. I know how much craziness was going on. So
You're calm. She seems so calm, like no stress in the world.
Well, we're going to end our social media broadcast now. So let's say goodbye to all of our social media friends. Thank you
Love
so
you
much for
guys.
Love
joining
you guys.
us
Thank you.
for our first episode, and we'll see you next week for our second episode. I'm going to end that broadcast.
Bye, guys.
Love you too.